Mukta, would you like to introduce yourself? We are here to discuss some primary objection from the audience as well as to clarify some of the conflicts in Hindu religion. So please introduce yourself.
Namaste. My name is Mukta Chandora. I'm a psychiatrist here in Georgia. I've been practicing for about 10 years. I did my training at Medical College of Georgia. I come from an Arya Samaj family where my father founded the Greater Atlanta Vedic Temple, which has been around for about 30 years.
Dr. Savitaji, please introduce yourself.
Namaste, thank you for having me. My name is Savita Kutil. I'm an internist who's in private practice for the last 14 to 15 years. Also specialize in sleep medicine, and I work for Kaiser Permanente. Have been associated with the Greater Atlanta Vedic Temple. Thank you, Dr. Chandora, for that opportunity.
Yeah, I'm glad you both are here. Mukta, tell us about, do Vedas glorify women or demean women? You have anything to prove?
The Vedas are the true source of Hinduism. The Vedas do not demean women. They simply glorify women. I have some verses here that I'd like to share that prove that. Yajurveda 10.26, O woman, you provide bliss and stability to the world. You are a source of valor. Rigveda 10.85.46, may you be empress and lead all. Yajurveda 20.85, noble woman, motivate us to be on the path of truth, love, and harmony.
That's very nice of you. Dr. Savitaji, could you tell us then about what is Sati Pratha and how it came into being, and do you think it's still practiced?
Sati Pratha is an unfortunate and most deplorable practice, I would say. It is nowhere sanctioned in the Vedas or, as far as I know, any Hindu religious text of authority. Sati Pratha is a social evil, and it came into vogue because it was really a defense mechanism of Hindu women against invading Mughal and other Central Asian conquerors. These people, when they captured and killed Indian rulers and others, they simply enslaved their women and raped them. So these women thought that it was a better fate to immolate themselves on a funeral pyre than to be captured and taken this way. And it slowly crept into society. It has nothing to do with the Vedas. And thankfully, it's been abolished by some great people like Dayananda Saraswati and other freedom fighters, Tilak, and also some forward-thinking British.
All right, thanks. How about same prevalent in the society is putra? Why everybody is asking for putra, not for putri? Means only for the sons, not for the girl's child. Could you comment on it?
Yeah, and honestly, I thought the same until I started reading more about this issue. On the one hand, women and men are equal in Vedas, and then this preferential treatment of sons over daughters. So when I researched this, I realized that the meaning of the term putra is not son, not daughter. It just means offspring. Everybody, it's a human urge to propagate oneself, and it's a natural urge to have a child or a putra, not specifically a son.
It's just like in English parents. It doesn't mean that it's referring to the male only, but it equally to the women. Parents could be male or female.
Yes.
So the same kind of connotations, you think.
That's what they say, and we just don't read Sanskrit or understand Sanskrit. And that's the problem.
Okay. I'm glad at least you can highlight. Could you tell me about, is possible for the woman to perform a usual ceremony of yajna or other ceremonies like that?
Absolutely. The Vedas give all rights to, or I should say, the Vedas give do not differentiate between a male yajman and a female yajman. A woman who's well versed in the scriptures can go ahead and direct or conduct a Havan ceremony. And we know of so many women scholars in the Vedas like Gargi and several others. So it was completely acceptable for a woman to participate in, not just participate in, but also direct a yajna.
Yes, you are right. In Atharvaveda, there are many hymns which reinforce the importance of women in conducting all kind of religious ceremonies. Thanks. Mukta, could you tell me about what's your idea about having women in the son's property rights or the female girl's rights?
So I'm quoting for the Vedas, and it's equally divided between female and male. One of the quotes is Rig 3.31.1. The father's property should be equally divided between the son and daughter. There's more. Rig Veda 4.14.3. O brilliant woman, remove ignorance with your bright intellect and provide bliss to all, which also states that the woman and the men are equal and there is no bias to differentiating personal property.
Okay, that's nice. At least they have equal rights even at that time. Okay, that's very good. Now, Savitaji, could you tell me about a woman is allowed to participate in yajna if they are having menstruation or some other kind of monthly cycle?
Yeah, and in my research, I couldn't see that this has any Vedic basis, the practice of isolating women during menses. That's a biological phenomenon, and it was, women were not isolated because they were on their period.
Yeah, you are right. So that is the equal right of the woman to participate because that's a part of life.
Yes.
Menstrual cycle is a biological rhythm which nobody can alter or change,
Yeah.
and it's a part of life.
And I would like to bring up the fact that in Kerala there's a temple that glorifies divinity in its female form, and menstruation and menstrual right is actually celebrated. Like when they change the Devi's clothes, they actually, there is some significance given to the fact that the Devi menstruated. So it was certainly not taboo, not from very ancient times.
Okay, that's good of you to enlighten us. Mukta, could you tell us, in your opinion, that woman has low intellect? Is there any something reference to that in the scriptures?
Women do not have low intellect. They are provided with the same opportunity as men and boys. Chapter 1, Women in Vedic Dharma, page 13. O groom, this bride is a protector of your entire family. May she dwell in your home and sow the seeds of intellect. Atharvaveda 11.5.18, the Brahmacharya Sukta mantra emphasizes that girls need education prior to marriage. Sukta specifically states that girls should receive the same level of training as boys. There's another one, Chapter 1, Women in Vedic Dharma. Girls should train themselves to be complete scholars and youthful through brahmacharya and then enter married life.
Good, very good. That reinforces each and every woman's right, and we should not neglect even our child. And Savitaji, could you tell us about, do you think the Manu is discredited by some group of people that there are several restrictions placed on women, means Manu was biased or try to demean women? What do you think?
And if you let me elaborate on this topic, because I read the controversies around Manusmriti. Manu was the first, or he's revered as the first lawmaker. He came up with a code of Hindu code of dharma, and Manu did not say anything derogatory about women. Quite the opposite. Things it couldn't be further from the truth that Manu was anti-woman. Manu has been quoted not just in India, but in the larger regions that include Philippines and Indonesia. But he did say, like so many other smritikars, he wrote what he wrote down is called Manusmriti, and he said that these codes of conduct are not just fixed; they need to evolve with time. So it's not something that he put down, which is absolute. He suggested that these can be interpreted based on the changing need of the time. I mean, there is a shloka that says, "Yatra naryastu pujante, ramante tatra devata." And what could be further from the truth? He says, the home where a woman is worshipped is where God dwells. The problem that's happened with Manusmriti is that there's so many versions out there, but the original and what's considered the authentic version by Professor Surendra Kumar, and I forget the number of shlokas, has just a little over 2,000 shlokas.
Right.
Is that the book that
Yeah,
you...
that's the Manusmriti by Surendra Kumar, which
Yes.
has shown many interpolated sloks.
And what he says is that, and Surendra Kumar, he's a Vedic scholar, and he says all these things, inflammatory verses that talk demeaningly about Shudras and the caste system and that to birth-based caste system and women, they were not in the original Smriti. The original Manusmriti is in accordance with the Vedas. So when he analyzed these shlokas, and he found that there's several things like it's either out of context or exaggerated or ungrammatical, not in accordance with the Sanskrit grammar of those times. So these shlokas need to be thrown out. And those are the shlokas that are all over the internet stating that Manusmriti is anti-woman. And those are interpolated verses that are not in accordance with the Sanskrit of those times. The sad part is that it takes a lot of scholarly training, 10 plus years of training, to understand the very basics of Vedic Sanskrit. And we don't have people like that. And the people that have written all these commentaries, they don't understand Sanskrit in its completeness and comment like this. Sorry, but I feel passionately about this.
No, you are exactly right. Professor Surendra Kumar is the dean currently of Gurukul Kangri University in Hardwar. In Philippines, there is a statue of Manu in their parliament, and Louis Jacolit, who was the judge in Pondicherry, Chandranagar area, a French colony, he wrote the book in which he says the laws of Manu are enshrined in the justician system of law, which is the Western laws. So it is the fundamental laws what Manu did, which are natural, fundamental, or say natural, eternal laws, he highlighted and wrote it down.
Yeah.
So these laws are applicable to all the places, all the time, and all the gender, as well as all the locations, irrespective of these things. So I'm glad you are able to highlighted some of the interpolation, and it's like this. If we have dirt in the house and throwing the dirt, we are not going to throw our old mother out. In the same way, some of the people, what they have done, because of the interpolation, they try to discredit Manusmriti and said Manusmriti is of no use. But they forget the basic principle that these are nothing but the eternal natural laws. They need to use their judgment, their intellect wisely rather than discarding anything or everything which is illogical in my opinion. Okay, then Savitaji, could you tell about, see, in India we had Dr. Ambedkar who wrote the Constitution of India. He was also of the opinion that Manusmriti demeaned women. What you have to say about that?
Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he was a very learned person, a great scholar, educated abroad. You know, it's really unfortunate that he suffered the kind of indignities growing up that he suffered. And I think anybody that went through the stigma of untouchability and was judged because of that, if I were in his place, I would probably react just as he did. So I think Dr. Ambedkar was sort of biased. He was against birth-based caste system, as any person should be. But unfortunately, that's not what the Manusmriti says. It does not believe in Varna, it does not believe in birth-based caste system, but more of a Varna-based. It's based on your natural proclivities and your natural tendencies. Do you want to be, are you a hands-on person versus are you someone that's given to reading? That's how the caste system was. But while Dr. Ambedkar later on admitted, he didn't know Sanskrit. He was not a Sanskrit scholar. He admitted later on from down the line that yes, verses like, scriptures like the Mahabharata and Ramayana have a lot of baggage that was added on, but somehow he was reluctant to say the same thing about Manusmriti, because in the first part of his life he came out violently against it. It's funny that, and I have to look at my scribbles here while I was reading, he converted to Buddhism because he was unhappy with the state of Hinduism at that time. But the Buddhist poet called Ashvaghosha, he quotes Manu in one of his Upanishads called Vajrakopanishad. And not just a Buddhist great man, but Guru Gobind Singh, Dara Shukho, people of other religions that knew and understood the language, they thought that there was nothing offensive in Manusmriti. And while I'm there, I should say that there's all these historical references to how caste system was Varna, or caste, I shouldn't even say caste system, how divisions were Varna based. Like the slave woman's son, or servant woman's son, Vidura, he became a big scholar. Maharishi Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana, he was born to a lower clan. On the other hand, on the flip side, Ravana, who was a terrible person, demon, considered a demon almost, he was born to a Brahmin family, Pulastya Rishi's clan. And Trishanku, who was born as a Kshatriya, he became a Shudra. So this whole class, it's just like what we have today, class 1 employee to class 4 employees. It's really that kind of a division and not anything that, and even if it crept in later, it was all because of vested interests. Brahman wanted to keep his privilege in his family and continued that way.
See, this became distorted after Mahabharata war because there were no scholarly institutions. Some of the gurus, they wanted their own egoistic sects, so they wanted to tell themselves they are superior, then others are inferior, and that way things deteriorated further. And later on, the invaders came, they also accentuated the condition to divide the society and develop the hate, because in many of their own scriptures, they have a hate against who are not following their shoes. So therefore, it's very hard to say that who was really responsible, but it's very clear that Varna is based on particular vocation. Vocational training of a person makes that Varna. So the vocational training came from the Varna because that's what the training was.
Yeah.
And so if it is intellectual, they belong to Brahmin. If they are, say like Ambedkar, he could be a Brahmin, but he chose not to because he could not distinguish the interpolated shlokas in Manusmriti from the reality. Otherwise, he could have not gone astray. Okay, Mukta, the next question is, on internet we see that people equate women with Shudra and they also develop some kind of lower esteem for both of them. So what do you think?
No, that's incorrect. I can quote Yajur 31.11. In this mantra, the Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra are present in human form. The Brahman, the head, king, the shoulders, Vaishya, the thigh, and Shudra, the feet. The progeny of the Shudra through karmic actions can grow to be a Brahman. So it does not demean women. It gives an opportunity for any gender to flourish.
Okay.
It's like no one body part is more important than the other. It's equally
all need-
important.
Right. If you want to keep your head, you have to have your feet. If
Yeah.
you want to keep your feet, you have to have a head and abdomen. So those are the allegorical description of a particular section of the society just to educate other people. But not all people are so intellectually oriented, so they take things very concrete
Yeah.
and not take in abstract form, and that produces the problems. Mukta, could you tell us about other portions in which educating a woman is against the scripture?
No, that is not found in the Vedas. Shukta specifically states that girls should receive the same level of education and training as boys. Chapter 1, Women in Vedic Dharma. Page 8, girls should train themselves to become complete scholars and youthful through brahmacharya and then enter married life. There's another one, Atharva 14.1.6. Parents should provide the power of knowledge and education prior to leaving for her husband's home. They should give her a dowry of knowledge. There's more I can give examples of, but it just sums it up saying that the parents do instill that opportunity for education for the girls.
That's very nice of you. Savitaji, could you tell me about how about the woman, as some of them have demeaned and trying to defame Manusmriti only for that reason. So what belief in society is prevalent according to you which discredits Manusmriti? Could you tell us about it?
As in, I guess you're asking me what are the direct evidences in Manusmriti that say that there should be respect given to women. I have some verses here which are taken directly from Manusmriti, and Dr. Surendra Kumar vouches that these are original verses. 9.11. Women should be provided autonomy and leadership in managing finances, maintaining hygiene, spiritual and religious activities, nutrition, and overall home management. 9.12. A woman who is kept constrained in a home by noble men, be it husband, father, or son, is still insecure. I mean, it sort of says that it's futile to restrict women. Security of a woman will only come through her own capability and mindset. And this suggests that the sage Manu, Maharshi Manu, wanted active participation of women in not just affairs of home, but affairs outside the home.
because in your opinion, a man is known by the woman he has, right?
Behind every successful.
Right. That's you corrected and completed. See, the problem with the media is the liberal media
Yeah.
being fueled by the vested interests because they are being paid from them, so they sing the songs of glory of the people who pay the money. So therefore, somehow there are various sources which try to not only break the system of India but want to, as a failure democracy, and to fuel that fire, they give lot of money to all these medias. As happened, you can see in United States, Trump clearly said that the media is so liberal and they just make the stories out of thin air, and thus he proved it because he was being told by everybody that he is going to lose, but it has happened quite differently. Same thing in India. Modi was the person who was everybody accusing him to be a nationalistic, Hinduistic person, but people voted him because people are sick and tired of the media, which they do not realize the actual conditions of the people. And so the same way, in your opinion, the media has become so biased that they discarded the Manusmriti.
Yeah, and maybe the roots to this has to do with, the time when British colonized. They didn't have a uniform, they didn't know how to rule this society which is so diverse. So Sir William Jones, he hired a few pundits, that's what I was reading, is he hired a few pundits and said, okay, take the Manusmriti and, apply it to legal issues that arise. And apparently Sir Jones, who's a Supreme Court judge, tried to learn Sanskrit and make sense of what was in it. And all this led to their own interpretation of rules. And whether it's ignorance or like maculae, deliberate distortion, or everything in between, what we hear about Manusmriti today is stemming from these sources. And most of us in India, we've had a British education. We don't know Sanskrit, we don't know our roots. It's whatever these British education fed to us that we believe. And we don't have the knowledge to question any. And it's fashionable to just keep saying the same things.
You are exactly right. Of those liberal media, how many journalists have read real Manusmriti? How many of them have really read Vedas? How many of them have even touched any one of these sources which are written in the Sanskrit? They don't know the Sanskrit, they just read what is being written in English, which was distorted and completely interpolated by Max Muller and allied missionaries, and therefore they are not using their own brain to explore. The journalist should have the courage to explore the source rather than just copying and talking in the terms of who is helping to pay them their salary.
Yeah, and it's a civilization that says Vasudeva Kutumbakam and Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina and all these exalted ideas. Sarve means all, including men and women, cannot have these narrow views. So if there are, some people might say you're an apologist and you're cherry picking things that are favorable to your view. I guess when I have two views like this, and a Sanskrit scholar who has studied and spent his entire career in trying to figure out what's real and what's interpolated, if he's saying that, hey, this is the interpolated one, I as a Hindu that chooses to believe in the goodness of my culture would choose to believe these as interpolated and this as real.
That's very,
and I think that's where the truth is too.
right, that's very kind of you to explain. Mukta, could you tell us that people still accuse somehow other without even reading that there is a dowry in Vedas. What
So in order to disprove in order to prove the false notions of dowry, we are going to only reference the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana, which are also books of history. Some customs such as dowry came to India because of Islamic murderers. Barbaric Islamic murderers who favored boys over girls. They would use boys and soldiers in the war, and protecting girls were becoming too much of a challenge. So the system was devised so that the Muslim royalty, the Parada system was devised so that the Muslim royalty would not see the faces of the Hindu women and get distracted. So due to Islamic terrorists, these policies became part of the culture, which started to demean women. So here are some examples. Atharva 14.1.6, parents should provide the power of knowledge and education prior to leaving for her husband's home. They should give her a dowry of knowledge. Another one, chapter 1, Women in Vedic Dharma, page 8-9. When girls ignore materialistic objects, develop foresight and vibrant attitude through the power of knowledge, then she becomes the provider of wealth, such as the sky and the earth. Then she should marry an eligible husband. There's some more examples. Shall I continue? There's one more. Let me say this one. Rig point 10.85.7. Parents should gift their daughter intellect and knowledge before leaving for her husband's home. They should give her a dowry of education. Oh, I said that before, I'm sorry.
That's very nice of you. So in other words, there is a lot of interpolated, ignorant, who do not even want to go and explore what is the reality. And that's why everybody is blaming others, not even reading. Sritaji, could you tell us that people force their daughters to get married in Hindu society according to the Vedas or some other scriptures?
Oh, that from what I read, nothing could be further from the truth. A woman has not just Manusmriti, but some other texts that I read. A woman has freedom of choice. She can choose who she wants to be married to. There's nothing that supports child marriage. That's I don't have the actual verse, but I get it. Here it is. 9.89. It is Manusmriti says, it's better to keep the daughter unmarried than to force her to marry an undeserving person. 9.90 to 9.1. A woman can choose her own husband after attaining maturity. If her parents are unable to choose a deserving groom, she can herself choose her husband. So the girl has the right to choose her husband, and parents are just facilitators.
Yeah, that's why it is called Swayamvar. The woman has the right to choose
Yes.
by self, and that's why it's called Swayamvar, means self-choosing. So that's very nice of you. I think we have discussed some of the misconceptions of the society, and thanks for clarifying in short so that a common person can understand what is the fallacy and what is the truth. So Mukta, could you summarize what we have learned so far?
Yes, so in all, the Vedas do not demean women. Women are actually held at a higher status than men. There are many women deities, there's many prominent women that are active in society and as good role models. So the Vedas, they glorify women.
Thank you. Srita.
Yes, I think my message to viewers, or my understanding of what I read in the Manusmriti, is that we cannot blame a text for the practices which are prevalent in society. Those are social ills. Don't blame the books for that. Nowhere in the books is it sanctioned that you mistreat a woman. On the other hand, the position of a woman is higher sometimes than that of man. And this is what I gather from Dr. Surendra Kumar's interpretation of the Manusmriti. If true Manuvad is implemented, then I think women will have a better life all across the world. So I do want to suggest the complete Manusmriti published by Arsha Sahitya Prachar Trust as the book to be read. And I think this should be popularized over the several versions of Manusmriti that's out there in the market.
All right. This is the inside of the picture of where one can actually contact to get the Vishuddh, means pure Manusmriti in which interpolated slokas are clearly marked, and why they are marked are also written by Professor Surendra Kumar.
Thank you,
All
Dr.
right.
Chandra.
You're welcome.